Cancel all your plans. Today is a stay-at-home and read day. Your chores, they'll be there tomorrow. Your job, call in. You're sick. If the phone rings, don't answer it, just like any other day. If you feel the overwhelming urge to go outside, don't. Have you seen what's out there? There are whole people out there, and some of them want to have a conversation. A conversation! That is a level of audacity we do not have time for today. You are allowed snacks and water, or at least something that's water-ish. Now come on, people, let's go. These pages aren't going to cry into themselves.
Well, if you read between the lines, you can kind of interpret the relationship between these two men as extending beyond the platonic. But of course, there's no proof. I'm not saying it's true. And I also don't think we should apply modern understandings of love and desire onto historical figures. Yep, these emperors loved men. They loved sleeping on men's thighs. They loved it when men sucked pus out of their boils. One loved his man so much that when he woke up to find his man sleeping on his wide sleeve, he opted to cut the sleeve off rather than disturb his man. And that one empress was definitely that one witch. I saw it with my own two eyes. How is it that every time I see your videos, you're getting into some drama or controversy? I'm sorry, which issue was too dramatic for you? The time I exposed a white author for review bombing debut authors of color? The time I got disqualified from the Hugo Awards because of proven political censorship? Or the times I spoke out against the multiple going on? You think I spoke out against all that because I like drama?
Have you ever looked at a mantis and thought, God, that's sexy? No, me either, because what the fuck? Oh yes, I read another weird book, so you don't have to. And this one, unfortunately, is by the same author that wrote the poo one. Anyway, let's talk about Mating with the Mantis by MJ Edwards. As always, spoilers ahead. Also, let's just do a little close-up of the cover so you can admire it. The book starts out by asking the reader the exact same question I asked you, and if you said no, you don't get turned on by a mantis, then apparently you're lying. Now, our protagonist, Dr. Liberty J.T. Penningforthly III, has nothing but respect for the mantis community. After all, Dr. Liberty has spent her entire life with mantises. Her dad even owned a mantis when she was a kid. He was called Gordon, the mantis. The dad's name was Jeff. He was leafy green like a green M&M, had a long abdomen, big fluffy wings, and legs that were bent and looked a bit like a nutcracker. And one fateful day, she stopped finding human men attractive and instead fancied, you guessed it, mantises. I am not going to repeat the thoughts that she has about them. If you want to know, you can read this godforsaken book yourself. She gets men to wear a mantis mask, paint themselves green and wear wings, but eventually even that stops working. She does a lot of things to try and make herself happy in the bedroom, including watching David Attenborough documentaries, doing the do in the insect house at the zoo, and even doing the do with a man named John Mantis. Your girl is desperate. After she gets her doctorate in insectology, she actually gets access to lots of mantises. Those poor mantises, because it involves her climbing into a bathtub full of them and letting them crawl all over her so she can reach that sweet release. Fuck's sake. One day in the lab, she actually gets her hands on an enlargement ray, and you can probably guess where this story is going, right? Well, actually, no, you'd be wrong, because the enlargement ray somehow doesn't make the mantis human-sized, it turns her into a mantis-sized mantis. Then, unfortunately for me, there are pages and pages and pages and pages of her doing the do with a praying mantis. She is doing the do with an insect. And then she remembers that the female praying mantis eats the male during doing the do. So she does. She literally just eats him. Then because she is in fact a mantis, she can't use the enlargement ray to turn herself back into a human. And then a cleaner walks in, picks her up and puts her in a mantis tank thinking she's a mantis, which, you know, fair assumption in this case. But the cleaner actually makes a mistake and puts her in a tank with male mantises. Lots and lots of male mantises. And she's very happy about that, and I think you know why. I don't need to explain it. She's happy about that. Oh, this wasn't as bad as the poo one. I did literally just read a book about a woman doing the do with a literal insect. I will never be the same. Goodbye!
If you're a bookworm, sooner or later, someone in your life is going to tell you that you buy too many books. Which is why today I'm partnering with Book of the Month to give you some highly scientific talking points that you can use on that person. This is highly sophisticated math, which is why I've verified all of it with a magic 8-ball. First of all, if you are getting new books through a subscription service, they do not count. They just don't. If the books you are getting come from an author you've never read before, they don't count. Because you're not buying new books, you're broadening your horizons. If the books match in some way to a book already on your shelf, then they don't count. They are clearly a family and they want to be together. Now this one's a little complicated, so pay attention. If you got a bookmark with your book, the book doesn't count because actually you got a book with your bookmark. That's value, my friends. And remember that all of this math is very high level. So if they don't get it at first, just repeat it at them louder and louder and louder until they either get it or leave you alone. I hope this was helpful. I'm gonna get back to reading.
Books are so incredible, yet I never feel the urge to reread them, but here are 5 books that I will never stop going back to. Uprooted by Naomi Novik, I talk about this one a lot, but there's magic and enemies to lovers-esque romance, a dark, evil, sentient wood, and also a wizard called the Dragon who is in the top 5 of my book boyfriends ever. I love him. The Book Thief by Markus Zusak, set in Germany during WW2, sorry, TikTok filters, this book is narrated by Death, and it has some of the most beautiful writing and storytelling that you will ever find in any book ever, but just be warned when you read it because it will make you cry so hard you genuinely think you're going to throw up. I don't even know how many times I've reread this, but it is my favourite book of all time, and it is just... Morganville Vampire series by Rachel Kane. I first read these probably something ridiculous like 15 years ago. There are 15 books in this series. Are they all good? No. Would they hold up to the YA standards of today? Also probably not. Do I care? No. These will forever hold a special place in my heart, and I will probably reread them until I die. So, yeah. Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier. You will probably know it by its first line, "Last night I dreamt I went to Manderley again." This is called one of the most influential novels of the 20th century for good reason. A young woman is whisked away to her husband's home, but in every corner of every room is the phantom of his beautiful first wife, Rebecca. The Invisible Life of Vadie LaRue by V.E. Schwab, a book which also contains some of the best writing and storytelling you will ever come across. On the eve of her wedding, a wedding she doesn't want, Addie makes a deal with the devil, and it ends up that she can live forever but be remembered by none. But hundreds of years later, she comes into contact with a man who remembers her. This book also contains Luke, the devil, who you shouldn't love, but I do.
I know we're working on reading the books we already own. But right now with Book of the Month, if you use the code PEDALS, you can get your first book for just $5. And if you've studied book math extensively, as I have, you will know that any book under $10 does not count. So let me show you what I got. First of all, we have a little bookmark. Page is just a number. Okay, so first book I got, 5 Broken Blades. First of all, 'tis the season for treason. So the 5 most dangerous liars in the land have been summoned to work together to kill a god king. They're all great at what they do, but they're terrible at working together. So they're gonna have to learn to trust each other if they hope to carry out this mission and get vengeance. I also just love let the best liar win. Like, so many good catchphrases. The other book I got, totally complete different vibe. I got Real Americans. This is a multi-generational story that deals with race and identity in America. It's supposed to deal heavily with family and finding a sense of belonging. It sounds really good and really poignant, but I've also heard it's really entertaining, so I'm excited to check it out. So what did you get for your book of the month? First question. And which of these 2 should I read and review first? Let me know.
The last few weeks/months, time doesn't make sense to me, I've acquired a fair bit of book mail, so here is some super quickfire book mail. Black Shield Maiden by Willow Smith and Jess Hendel, an African warrior, is plunged into the world of Vikings, a story that has been lost to the mists of time. What if Loki Was Worthy by Madeline Rue, Thor, God of Thunder is dead, and Loki is accidentally responsible, banished to Earth, he must carry out his brother's last request. Enemies to Lovers by Laura Jane Williams, Flo hates her brother's best friend Jamie, and somehow he is on her should-be relaxing family holiday to Greece. Touch Wicked by Katrina Kendrick, another book in the craziest historical fiction series you will ever read, where there's kidnapping, crime, and love. Moonlight by Moira Buffini, a post-apocalyptic future where an advanced form of telepathy has formed, those who shine are hunted. The Four Seasons Crown by B.B. Salem, a human is tasked with marrying the Fey Winter King, him, and taking the Four Seasons Crown. The North Wind by Alexandria Warwick, a mortal woman, an ageless god, and a union that will save the world or destroy it.
We are reading the books we already own. There is a pillow and a mug on top of these books on the floor. What is happening? If you're new here, I'm going through my bookshelf one book at a time, reading the ones I haven't read yet and deciding what gets to stay and what's gotta go. When's last we met, I had just finished An Ember in the Ashes, and now I have finished A Torch Against the Night. Oh my God. Let me tell you something about this, okay? This book was a lot. There are moments in this book that are akin to like the Red Wedding in Game of Thrones. There are things that happen at the end of this book that change the status quo for the characters so much that you would think it was the end of the series. And yet somehow, there are 2 more books. All I wanted for these characters for 450 pages was for them to find a save point. You know when you're playing a video game and you go into a room, there's a save point and you're like, whew, at least I'm safe in here. I wanted them to find that room. And they never did. Everyone's in danger. Every single person in this book is in danger for the every page of it. And in this one, we actually get 3 POVs. We get a Helene POV. I don't love Helene, but I feel for her. She also had my favorite line in An Ember in the Ashes, so there's that. And in this book, bad things happen to everyone, but arguably the worst things happen to her. Like, my list of people who are not allowed to live to the end of this series has doubled just because of her storyline. So far, I am obviously planning to keep these. Now, I got very lucky because one of you had the kindness and the audacity to send me books 3 and 4 in the mail. Though whoever you are, you didn't put a note of any kind. So if you are the person who sent me these, thank you. That was so nice of you. So next up, I will be finishing this series. Do you want to check in when I finish Reaper at the Gates, or should I just read both of them and then check back in with you? What would you prefer? Do you want to hear 1 combined meltdown or 2 separate meltdowns? By the way, I don't think I've ever showed you guys this. This is a pillow, and the pillowcase is a bookcase. I think my grandma made this for me. Maybe it was my mom. I can't remember. This is what I lay on when I read. This and my giant teddy bear. Have I shown you my giant teddy bear? This is him. He's actually taller than me. Unlike most of the men on the internet, when he says he's 6 feet tall, he's not lying. I feel like we got a little off track. So, love these. Reading these next. Books. Thank you for your time.
Folks, there are 4 more of my book icks. Yes, I really do have more, and once again, these are just personal opinion. Really, really, really long chapters. Now, I am not a person who has to get to the end of a chapter to stop reading, but I am a person who says, 1 more chapter and then I'll sleep. Just 1 more. A fair few times before I do actually sleep, and long chapters make this so much worse. A bit of a weird one, but really stiff books. Okay, I love a floppy book. They're easier to hold, they're fun to wibble wobble, and honestly, a stiff book just doesn't feel as good. It is the small things in life. Comic relief side characters who you know are just there to die. I don't know why it makes me so irrationally angry, but it really does, and at this point, I'm more shocked if they survive than I am at their death. Now, this one is my fault entirely, but when I read a book thinking it's a standalone or even just part of a duology, and then it turns out it's the start of a series or part of a really long series, again, my fault, but I didn't sign up for that commitment. I hate to be a negative Nancy, but here are some of the only books I've rated lower than 3 stars. Oh, that was close. Bridge of Clay by Marcus Zusak. Now, Marcus Zusak actually wrote my favourite book of all time, The Book Thief, but everything I loved in that book, I hated in this. The writing style didn't seem to fit the story. Not much really happened. There wasn't much of a plot, and if I'm being completely honest, it was a bit nonsensical. A guy needs to build a bridge, repair a relationship with his dad. There's loads of animals, and one of the siblings likes running, and that's really all I can remember because I kind of wiped it from my brain because I was so disappointed. Nod by Adrian Barnes, and this one actually had kind of the opposite thing happen, where I loved the writing style, the plot was really promising, but everything else just got a bit weird and fell a bit flat. One day, everyone in the world just stops being able to sleep, except a lucky few who have golden dreams. But after 6 days, psychosis sets in, and after 4 weeks, the body will... Like, see what I mean? The premise was just so interesting, but just... It didn't do it for me. Queen of Myth and Monsters by Scarlett Sinclair. This is the sequel in a series, and the first one, King of Battle and Blood, I actually really enjoyed. But this one was pointless. My opinion, but it was pointless. It was pages and pages and pages of nothing. Like, actually nothing. Nothing happened, and the characters really got on my nerves. Yes, I'm going to read the 3rd one and just pray that there's some plot, pray that something happens, and pray that the characters just stop being so annoying. That was really harsh. I'm very sorry. Romanov by Nadine Brands, and this is about, you guessed it, the Romanov family, except it's fantasy and there's magic. The start kind of follows the history of it all, but then the end, in my personal opinion, you could really tell that the author had nothing to go off. May have been slumping, but I did also find a book to add to my top reads of the entire year so far. Try and guess which one it was. Anyway, I read 8 books in April. Let's go. Book 1. Vampires, 90s nostalgia, and honestly, just a bit of fun. Book 2. Pro, easily bingeable, read it in one sitting. Con, I don't know how I feel about it. Book 3. Sometimes all you need is a cute middle grade with a magical dragon. Book 4. Some were better than others, but it was a short story collection, so as always, I was kind of expecting that. Book 5. Said it before, we'll say it again, these are the wildest historical romances you will ever see, and I love them. Book 6. So that was one of the best things I've read in a long time. 5 stars, except I'm also not okay. I don't know, I'm left bereft. Now I will go stare at the wall for the next half an hour. Book 7. I'm undecided on my thoughts, to be honest with you. Book 8. My Jane Seymour obsession continues. There are a lot of names, but other than that, this was great. Okay, folks, here are 6 chaotic book recommendations, books based on mythology, folklore, and legends that aren't Greek. Ow! The Sun and the Void by Gabriela Romero Lacruz. This is an epic and stunning sapphic fantasy inspired by South American folklore, and it's filled with dark and ancient magic. A Magic Steeped in Poison by Judy I. Lin. This one has a magic system rooted in Chinese mythology and the art of tea making. It is beautiful! Do I still need to read the sequel? Yes, I am a disgrace and I apologise. Uprooted by Naomi Novik, which is also one of my favourite books of all time. This is rooted in Polish folklore and it is beautiful, enchanting, vivid, magical, stunning. Also the love interest, I love him. Lilith by Nikki Mamrie, inspired by Jewish and biblical legend, because before Eve, there was Lilith, and I say again, she's pretty fucking cool. This was feminist and entirely different and a whirlwind. The Stardust Thief by Chelsea Abdullah, inspired by Middle Eastern folk tales. Listen, this one was breathtaking, absolutely breathtaking. I loved the characters, I loved the setting, I loved the sprinkling of stories throughout it, just, yeah. The Girl Who Fell Beneath the Sea by Axie Oh, inspired by Korean legend. Deadly storms, an ancient curse, the red string of fate, will her sacrifice save them all? Simply exquisite.
Go to the store. Buy a bottle of hoisin sauce. Open the fridge. Oh no! I have a bottle of hoisin sauce. Go to the store. Buy a bottle of hoisin sauce. Open the fridge. Oh no! I already have a bottle of hoisin sauce. Go to the store. Buy a bottle of hoisin sauce. Open the fridge. Oh no! I've already got a bottle of hoisin sauce.